This stuff here, Yerushalmi Pesachim. The article is in addition to Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph, the third line down. Bikrab Pesach Tchila v'Tamid Acharab, and that in the Vilna is on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph. It is towards the bottom, 6 lines from the bottom. So Umar says, okay, we're talking about Ben Arbaim by Pesach and Tamid. Bikrab Pesach Tchila v'Tamid Acharab. So the Mashbiach explains they're asking by a regular year, why do we do the Talmud first and negate its Ben Arbaim and do preference to the Korban Pesach Ben Arbaim? So Moshe says, if you do the reverse, you say something about the Ben Arbaim Shel Pesach. Come on, negating the Ben Arbaim Shel Pesach. Because Pesach comes once a year. So either you do Ben Arbaim today or never. At least not till next year. You can make Ben Arbaim Shel Pesach. But if you do the Ben Arbaim Pesach, when it says about the Ben Arbaim Shel Tamid, you're not Mavato Ben Arbaim Shel Tamid. You do it tomorrow, Ben Arbaim. Tamid, in Vatlo Ad Achshav, Emosayit Mekaimo, Lachazman. This is where it explains that. Tamid, if you're Mavato today, where are you going to find Mekaimit? I should have made that clear. Emosayit Mekaimo, when are you going to fulfill it? Lachazman. Another time. The next day. Day before, for that matter. Pesach, Vatlo Ad Achshav, but at Pesach, if you're in the grades Ben Arbaim now on Erev Pesach, Emosayit Mekaimo. When are you ever going to be Mekaimit? So therefore, we give precedence to Pesach's Ben Arbaim. Even though, we have the normal principle of Tadeh Kodim, I always do the thing which is more common first. Well, here this is indicate in faith in the opposite to the Talmud first, because it's taught there. So therefore, we don't use that principle here in order to determine which should go Ben Arbaim. Whether we use this different principle that there are other days you do the Talmud at its proper time, even though one day you won't. But now I'm going to ask a question about Erev Pesach, when Erev Pesach comes out of Erev Shabbos. But anyway, both I'm going to go in Mashbiach and the near the same thing. The next question was about Erev Pesach comes out of Erev Shabbos. Anyway, they're both not going to be Ben Arbaim. Because in the Mishnah that used to do the Korban Tamid at 12:30 and the Korban Pesach at 1:30. So in that case, Yaakov Pesach Tchil v'Tamid Achrav. So bring the Pesach first, and then afterwards the Tamid. With the why we do the Talmud first, do the Pesach first. So here I'm not sure why we don't answer this Tadeh V'Shein Tadeh Kodim. We do the Talmud first, because the Talmud is the regular daily korban 365 days a year. Pesach is only once a year, but it could be that the Gemara is not using that svara here because of the idea which we had previously that the Ikar Drasha Ben Arbaim is by Korban Pesach, and then we learn Korban Tamid from Korban Pesach. So therefore, it could be that therefore we want to do Pesach first. Anyway, the Gemara answers. Gemara says Yuchad Davar Shnei Ba'erev Ben Arbaim. By Korban Pesach says both Ba'erev and Ben Arbaim. It says it to the Psukim. Davar Shnei Ba'erev Ben Arbaim Bilvad. It comes after Tamid, which is only when it says Ben Arbaim. So the fact that it says Arab, besides Ben Arbaim, it's just that it's the one which come, so to speak, towards evening. It comes second. Okay, Rabbi Yirmiyah boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah asked, "Macham is meimer Arab muchar." How do you know this Arab means muchar means later? Oh, no more Arab mukdam. Maybe Arab means earlier. In other words, Arab we said yesterday because it's from the moment the sun starts going towards the Marav. So it's going towards the west. So maybe the additional word Erev connotes that it should be earlier. It should be right after noon, midday, right after noon, when the first Erev starts. Elikani, rather, this is the answer. Yuchad Davar Shnei Ben Arbaim Kivo HaShemesh. The pasuk says by Korban basically includes the term Kivo HaShemesh. The pasuk in Dvarim says Ki Ima Makom Shev Char Shogel Shchein Shmo Shom Shom Dizbas Habas Haber Kivo HaShemesh, as the sun is setting. Moed says Chomei Mitzrayim, close to the time when you left Mitzrayim. So the Yuchai davar shem arbein arbaim. Kivo Hashem is davar shalom bar el bein arbaim bilvad. To come later for that thing, which in Talmud which only says bein arbaim, doesn't say Kivo Hashemesh. So Gemara is going to bring a raya from a brayso to Rabbi Yirmiyah that Kivo Hashemesh is indicative of this man shchita, and it's later. But it's the second brayso here of two braysos we bring. Masisim say Rabbi Yirmiyah. There's a brayso which evidence Rabbi Yirmiyah. The first brayso says Shom these bachs pesa b'erev. Now this pasuk we have three different times. B'erev, Kivo Hashemesh, where it says Chol Mitzrayim, and they're really three different times. Erev is whatever ever means. We know what it means. Kivo Hashemesh means as the sun is setting, either just before sunset or right after sunset, right? As the sun is and but Moetzes Mitzrayim is the morning, because that's when they left Egypt. So now it could be you start Limechatzos. We'll come to that in a moment, but it's sometime later. Okay, so what do we do these three times? Like Shlosh Ksur Makishim Zez and one pasuk. So the first place it says. Masisim side Rabbi Yirmiyah. The right evidence Rabbi Yirmiyah. First says Shom Tizbach Sepesa Ba'erev, right? But Erev at the Zovech. In whatever Erev is, you're Zovech. That's in the Shchita. Now, we don't know exactly what it is because Erev has many different connotations. It could be Erev right after noon, right after. It could be Erev towards evening. But Kivo Hashemesh at Ochel. When the sun sets, you eat it. When the time you leave Egypt, that's when you roast it. Now, most of the Farshim leave the Girsa intact here. And the question is, what do you mean? The time of Tzliya is after the time of Achila? Okay, but they want to say, for example, the article says that you can continue roasting it until Chatzos, which is the time when they started leaving Egypt. But the Sifri's Girsa, which Yerushalmi Pesachim brings down, I think is much more easy, and I'm shocked that the article doesn't bring down the Girsa. It says Chol Mitzrayim at Soref. You burn it in the morning when they left Egypt, finally and completely. That's when you burn it. Okay, so therefore it's Ba'erev Tazvech, V'Hashemesh at Ochel, Mitzvah Chol Mitzrayim at Soref. Is Tani, and I think the evidence Rabbi Yirmiyah was from the second brisa, but Erev at Ochel. In the evening really means the time of Achila, and it's not, the pasuk is not going in chronological order. But evening here refers to, since Erev is a flexible term, now it's going to mean the beginning of the afternoon. Now it's going to mean the end of the afternoon. It could also mean nightfall. But Erev, when night actually ensues. Ata Ochel. Kivo Hashemesh ata Zovech. Oh, and here's the right for Rabbi Yirmiyah. Kivo Hashemesh teaches the time of Zbicha, that Pesach should be later on. Kivo Hashemesh, towards evening, right? Moed, so same thing as before. So again, Ba'erev at Ochel, Kivo Hashemesh at Zovech, Moed Mitzrayim at Soref. Okay, period. Okay, so the evidence is again from the fact that the Yirmiyah that Kivo Hashemesh dictates us the time of Shechita. And Hashemesh here, we understand the mean, towards evening. Okay, and Erev itself, which, as we saw before, has multiple Perushim, has three now three Perushim actually. It has so right after midday, towards evening, and after nightfall, depending on what it's referring to. Okay, so the Gemara says, do both simultaneously. Why do have to sequentially? Both the Talmud and the Quran Pesach together. So we have an interesting drasha here. It's a keves. Rabbi Yosef. It says keves sheni ve'ein Pesach sheni. The pasuk says as a keves hasheni taseh ben arbaim. So from the words keves sheni, we learn one keves, right? That it should be the second korban, right? So and not multiple korbanos, because the Korban Pesach is multiple kvasim, thousands, tens of thousands, millions perhaps of kvasim. That's what the Korban says. What was it? Rabbi Yosef. See, keves sheni taseh arbaim masha keves echad. One kevis. Lo Pesach sheni. Pesach not be the second korban. The Yeshno harbek kvasim, which comes in myriad kvasim. So therefore, the Rosh tells us that kevis is sheni and not kvasim. So when you therefore the Pesach the one thing is sheni, and then not multiple together. So therefore, we have to go. Can't do it together. I guess the idea is one kevis at it, one kevis before all the other kvasim, and that's why the korban tummy comes and then after the Pesach sequentially, not simultaneously. Okay, so next we're going to go with the change of the carbonator, which the article also does here. Tani Reb Nosson Reb B'chol Yom V'Yom Tummy Nishchat B'Sheish U'Mechza V'Kare B'Sheva Mechza, not as it says in the text in the Vilna Shemona Mechza and Teish Mechza, but rather Sheish Mechza V'Sheva Mechza. So sounds like every day of the year. So Umar says Mao, and the Yerushalmi Pesachim puts in the words Mao B'chol Yom V'Yom, the words Yom V'Yom. Even if you don't put them in, that's obviously the question. Mao, what does it mean every day? It's not true. B'chol Erev Pesach Pesach means every Erev Pesach. In other words, no matter when Erev Pesach comes out, you always do the Talmud early at 6:30, and the Korban 7, finish it by 7:30 in order to do the Korban Pesach afterwards. Why? Rabbi Yisrael said, time of the Tanya, the reasoning of Rabbi Nosson that if we done every Erev Pesach like this is that they take Chanti Shab and Kas the Kas. It's give half an hour between each group. So the Korban makes the cheshbon here. Time of the attack, the Chanti Shab Kas the Pesach Nishab Shlosh Kitos. The Pesach is slaughtered in 3 groups. The Talmud is finished at 7:30 at 1:30. Start Oda the Erev till the evening. There are Arba shows of Mechza. There are 4.5 hours. Harei Shah Acha Ashol Mechza. Harei Shah Mechza. There's an hour and a half for each group. Shah Achas Lasiyaso, an hour for the actual performance. Chatzi Shah Revach Ben Asayim, a half an hour in between each group. The Talmud says based on a half an hour also. 1.5 hour between at the beginning between the Talmud and the Pesach, and the last group so the last group finishes as the sun is setting. So we'll try to work that out. Yeah, 1:30 finish Korban Pesach, then 2:00 you begin your first group. Then that group goes from 2:00 till 3:30. Then the next group goes from 2:00 to 3:30. Next it goes from 3:30 to 5, right? And because an hour plus half hour group, and then you have the last one that's not going to have half an hour afterwards. It's going to go from 5 to 6. And it's going to finish its asiyah as the sun is setting. Okay, I'm not sure Pnei Moshe has that same reckoning. It seems to have more elaborate discussion to break up in the afternoon, but we'll go with Korban Eider for this at this point. Well, it goes down to Seder Hayom. Tani Dam Tomid Ve'Vorav, the blood of Tomid and the limbs being put on up his back, claim the Pesach, they come before Korban Pesach. The Pesach comes before the Ketores, V'Ketoros Atavas Haneros, and the Ketores comes before Atavas Haneros. I'm not sure we're taking into account all 3 groups. I never thought about this before. The 3 groups, obviously, they have to do some of the avodas before the 3rd group is finished. If the 3rd group is only finishing by nightfall. So evidently they're doing some of the avodas tzibur simultaneously with the Korban Pesach. Let's read it over again. Tani Dama Tomid Ve'Vorah. Got distracted there. Dama Tomid Ve'Vorah. The blood of Tomid and its Ve'Vorah comes with Pesach. Pesach Ketores, and the Pesach comes before Ketores. And Ketores Nevis. The Ketores comes before you fix the candles of the menorah. Each time those who say Dam Tomid Ve'Vorah Koidmim L'Kteres. The Dam Tomid and the Ve'Vorah come before the Kteres, and the Ketores before the Pesach. Ketores comes before the Pesach. Pesach Tavas Haneros, and the Pesach comes before the Tavas Haneros. Why is that? Kedei sheyikarvu nischei Tomid imo. So in the Slachim libations which come with the Tomid should be together with the Tomid. because the unfortunately explained here that the Pesach and the Tamid come at the same time simultaneous to Ketores, so therefore we do the Ketores before the Pesach in order that in this case Tamid should come together with the Tamid. Okay. Ein Muktam Tamid Shel Shachar v'lo Meuchad Shel Tamid Shel Baim. There's nothing which comes before the Tamid Shel Shachar or after the Tamid Shel Barabaim. Ella, it says Pesach v'Ktores, the Mechal Mayim. And the Yerushalmi Pesachim will change it to, I think, also in front. Let me see in a second. And Ella Ktores Pesach Ktores and a Pesach Bar Pesachim and Pesach on Erev Pesach. Yeah, it's also going to be Ephraim. The Shari Kram wants to just take the words Arei Pesachim, but I think it's just easier to switch to Girsa. Okay. By the way, I looked up the Gil Ephraim. So Gil Ephraim reference in a new sefer, which I just got yesterday from my cousin, Rabbi Avram Wagner of Lakewood, called Afar Yerushalayim on Gans Afar Yerushalayim on Gans Yerushalmi. So we've already missed half the sefer, but Mir Hashem for the rest of the Yerushalmi will be able to be nana from his scholarship, which seems prodigious. Baruch Hashem, the credit to the family. I see the article also changed it. Okay, Minan Shel David Tamid David Koyim Tamid Shel Shach. I know nothing is coming for Tamid in the morning. Tamler Oleh Allah. So the 1 second. Yeah, the words are going to explain in a moment. Okay, what the drasha is. And how do you know things should be impeded till after the Talmud Shabbat Abayim? Tamalema Aleh Shlamim. Right, so with that, it means Aleh Shlamim, the Midrash as if the man says Aleh Hashleim. Complete everything upon it. In other words, it should be the everything should come on top of the Korban Tamid Baboker before Korban Tamid Shabbat Arbaim. I should read for you the pasuk. It says, "Vayishim be'avtuk lo sichper ve'leh oleha hakohen." Oleha is the on the mizbeach. Oleha hakohen v'yitzim baboker v'rach oleha olah. You should put upon it the olah, which is Olah's Tamid. Viktir oleha chavei shlami, and upon it the you should put the Chavei Shlamim. So we're darshaning the second Oleha here as if it means to tell us that the Korban Tamid, Oleha going on the Korban Tamid, everything should be Shalem on top of the Korban Tamid Shaboker. Oleha, so where the Bab Balash Nabavi is Oleha Hashlem Kol Korbanos Kulam. Okay, so the you should be a Korbanos on it. We didn't explain the first part yet. We're going to get to that momentarily. So Rav Shimon Lakish Varach Oleha Olah in Ksiv Khan. It doesn't say if you should put upon it Olah. In other words, you should put and it's not about generic Olos, but rather it says Behei Ayidiyah. It says Varach Ha'olah, right? There's we say as Korban Pnei Moshe says Varach Ha'olah Noshin Ha'olah Rishonah, the first Olah, right? The Shelote haolah kodemes l'tamid shel shachar, right? That the any olah should come after the olah shel shacharis. So that's a little bit difficult. So the Gil Ephraim actually changed the girsa here from the Shelote haolah kodemes l'tamid shel shachar, which means Shelote olah. And the article brings that down. There's Girsa from the Gil Ephraim as well. So that what it means is that Varach Aleh Ha'olah, the Olah comes first. And this is clear with Bnei Moshe is saying too, even though he doesn't change the Girsa. And it's basically Bavli as well. Varach the first put on the Mizbeach the Olah ha'olah, the olah. What's the olah? The korban tamid. So v'rachale ha'olah shalote olah, not other olos. They should not come kodem tamid shel shachar. So first ha'olah, the olah, b'hei idea, the tamid shel shachar, and then afterwards all the korbanos. Tani Rabbi Shimon ben Broka Omer. Mechusei kapara mevian kaparosan kidei achar tamid shel rabbanim. People who are mechusei kapara, meaning they still have to bring the carbon in order to become tar for whatever they were tummy from. I think that specifically we're talking about carbon mitzora. Well, the Gemara is going to clarify that. The Gemara is going to say, in order they should go to the mikveh and eat their pesachim immediately afterwards, that evening. That's about a rich mitzora. So the rich mitzora, he brings chatas behema, and it requires haktor on top of the mizbeach. So he that you need a special statement to say they can mean it's kapara chotam shema ben rabbaim. Mitzora ani la'ofu maybe, but by mitzora ani does he bring a bird? So a bird is not a problem of putting anything in the mizbeach. No part of the bird goes on his zech. You just sprinkle the blood. There's no issue of doing anything of doing that vote of an oath, evidently after the Tamid Sheben Rabbaim, and there's no chiddush from Rabbi Shimon ben Rabbi Yochanan Broka, because the whole problem is the behema. Because it's about arach. Arach means to do the imurim, and there's no aricha. So therefore, the only Rabbi Shimon ben Rabbi Yochanan Broka to tell me that it's okay. So says Gemara, Rabbi Shimon ben Abduma. Abduma said no. Ain't maybe Osham? Says still no. By him also need the chiddush Rabbi Shimon ben Rabbi Yochanan Broka, because he brings the korban Osham, and the Osham is a behema even for an ani, and therefore since that's the case, he brings he doesn't just bring a chatas oaf, he also brings an Osham behema. So therefore, he needs a special dispensation. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochannan's dispensation as a chiddush to say that in our Pesach we allow the mechusar kapara who needs to bring his korban after the korban tamid to bring the Osham, which is the behema, after the korban tamid shmei rabbain. Okay, so it's not just a mitzvah, it's a zav, yelest, mechusar kapara. And evidently we're talking about here specifically somebody who he came late. he forgot to bring his korban on time. So that's how chiddush that even though he could have done earlier in the day. That I guess perhaps he was pushed up because there's so many korbanos Pesach going on. So therefore, I saw this is going off a total tangent. I saw Shlomo Fisher's that's how he writes that why didn't Bnei Yisrael be mocked up the korban Pesach through 38 years in the desert? The only first korban Pesach they made, not the other 38 years. So he says there were only the three Kohanim, and there were hundreds of thousands of Jews being korbanos Pesach. It's not possible for the three Kohanim to get through it. He says the first year before the Chet HaMeraglim, so then there was a nace that they were able to get it all done. But after the Meraglim, there's no nace anymore. So therefore, it was not feasible to make korban Pesach. So since they couldn't do all of them, they didn't do any of them. It's a fascinating shot. But hey, man, so it could be that this guy was got pushed off. So therefore, we gave it this. Said after everything is said and done, you can still bring his korban Pesach because in order to be able to eat, and to whoever it was. So the Gemara says it's a chiddush you need specifically by those who. They're bringing korbanos behema because the korbanos oaf, it's not a chiddush that they can bring after the Tamid Shmei Rabbain because there's no hakrava. Okay, halacha base. Hapetz yishach shelo lishmo. Hapetz yishach shelo lishmo. Not for the right purpose, not for the purpose of Pesach, but rather the purpose of shlomi. Kibbel v'hilech v'zorak shelo lishmo, and they did the kabbalah sadam or the halacha sadam. The Zbika Saddam Shlo Lishmo, not for the purpose of the Korban Pesach, because these are four avodas in which your Pesach becomes Pasal Machshava, or Pigo for that matter, right? Shchita, Kabbalah, Halacha, and Zbika. He did Shlo Lishmo, Oli Shmo, Vishlo Lishmo. He did it both Lishmo and Shlo Lishmo. The question is whether one avoda or multiple avodas. Oh, Shlo Lishmo, Lishmo, or vice versa. Shlo Lishmo, puzzle. Okay, that's no good. Ketzad. What are examples of this? Shlo Lishmo means Lishum Pesach, Lishum Shlomim. Shlo Lishmo, Lishem Shlomim, Shlom Pesach. Okay, so those are the examples of this scenario. Okay, it says more. I know you have to check on Pesach Lishmo. Rabbi Bob, B'Shem Rav said, "B'amartem Zevach Pesach Hu." As you should say, it's a Zevach Pesach. Im Lomar im Shachto L'Shem Pesach. Shech for the purpose of Pesach. Already Pesach, it's a Korban Pesach. Bilav, it's not a Korban Pesach. So B'amartem Zevach Pesach Hu. So that obviously refers to Shechita. Sharkon Masa Minayin, how we know the other Maisim also be done Lishma, but Sisa Pesach. We should do a Pesach. Should call myself Shem Pesach. All of its mice should be for the purpose of Pesach. So it says, my mouth, I feel hectare more. So that's the case of all its mice and the Shem Pesach, even the putting of the Imurim on top of the Mizbech, the putting the fats, the parts of the carbon, the fats is going to be should also have to be L'Shem Pesach. No, that we have the other pasuk, Tamalomar Zevach. We have the pasuk Matim Zev Pesach. Mazi, had we not had that pasuk, we might have said that. So said that second other pasuk Mazicha Micheres Shimakeves Kabar, just like Zvicha. It's Yotzim. It's kind of called Rosh Yotzim in a cloud. Lalamid Lolatzmi Lalamid Atzmi Yotza Lalamid Cloud Kulo Yotza. Right, anything which is except taken out of the general principle. It doesn't teach about itself. It teaches about other things as well. Mazicha Micheres Shimakeves It's Kapara. Which is like shchita is essential. That impedes the kapara. Can't have kapara without shchita. So to all the avodas which are essential for kapara, which are the avodas of the dam. Yotzu hektar and murim, as opposed to putting the murim tarzbech she'ena makvin as a kapara, which are not makvin the kapara. So therefore they don't have to be done lishma. Okay, chatos minayin. How you know chatos is done lishma? V'shachatos or chatos. Same principle. Shechel chatas. Shar kol masov minayin. How no other maisim, but so asar chatos. So asir, all asiyos. Me'ata v'lektein murim. Same principle. Let's say ektein murim tamalomar shochat. Mashchim mechesh me'akeves lekapora. Shchita is unique in that it's something which is impediment to kapara. Yotzek ektein murim is impediment to kapara, as opposed to ektein murim which are not ma'akev the kapara. And I believe that brings us to the. It's the same similar drasha, and that brings us to the top of Lamed Zayin Rodav. So we'll stop here for today.